to unknown film, not even sure it came out in any movie house, that pokes fun at Islam. A couple of reactions for you. First of all, this one from Twitter, from Zwiletu in Cape Town. He says it was pro-Gaddafi forces that killed him. Obama should do nothing but just beef up security at embassies. Momo in Basel, Switzerland says, now you know Gaddafi was right when he said, they're not my people, this is Al-Qaeda. While Mansour says, Obama must support a civil society in Libya, not a new dictator like Nouri al-Maliki. Catherine Norris-Trent, lots of theories as to who's responsible, bantering about, it seems.
Yes, that's right. Tripoli is a rife with speculation. Lots of people on the internet, people on forums, people we meet to trying to get to the bottom of this. As you say, there are several theories around the government. We spoke to people from the office of the Deputy Prime Minister, Mustafa Abu Shagor, earlier today, and they were saying for them this is the work of Islamists. But they said that what was a protest around the American film portraying the Prophet Muhammad was then used by other elements. They didn't specify what they thought these other elements were, but they thought this protest was hijacked by other elements. And in fact, they told me that they thought these protests were hijacked by people with an agenda, and this was a planned attack on the US ambassador. They said this wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't a spontaneous act. And they said they're still investigating, though, they're looking into all possibilities.
Mathieu Mabin, your thoughts?
I think we must remember that it's not the first time blasphemy, the word blasphemy is used by Muslim people in Muslim country. Remember what happened a bit more than a year ago when this priest in Texas was planning to burn the Quran. It created a lot of trouble all over the world in almost in each Islamic country, and particularly in Afghanistan, where 40 people were killed in the same day during a demonstration. In the past, remember what happened in Pakistan when some newspapers edited some stories about the Prophet, which was not in conformity with Islamic ideas. Some embassies were blown by bombing. It's not the first time. So I would believe in the fact that this demonstration was spontaneous. I do believe this, because I know 100% of Libyan people are Muslims, Sunni Muslims, 100%. Everybody is Muslim in Libya. And everybody is shocked by blasphemy in Libya, what they consider as a blasphemy. Nobody will say that this movie was a good idea. Nobody will say that in Libya. And everybody will feel pain. So I can believe this demonstration was spontaneous. But I also can believe that those Salafi groups use this demonstration to create an event.
Waid Borshan, do you agree?
Yes, I definitely, most of it, I clearly do agree. The fact that, they are taking advantage of a situation. Extremists, unfortunately, they feed from each other. They create situations where the rest of the world have to pay for it. In this particular situation, I do have a sense that this situation is kind of taking advantage of an opportunity. This jihadists are looking for things to kind of congregate and kind of a mask underneath this all the crowd and good reason, whatever good reason might be, and take advantage of the situation. I agree wholeheartedly. No one plans for rocket-propelled grenades to be assembled, and this number of sophisticated fighters, these are not normal fighters. They're not sort of like your angry crowd coming in, sort of like dealing with situation. And if there was angry crowd with guns, they would kind of demonstrate as such and do it in a sort of unorganized manner. But this is well-organized approach, definitely militaristic approach, and as you can see, they're overwhelmed. large contingency of Marines and other forces. The word that I heard from Benghazi is that the security services, they did notice, or when they saw this, they kind of backed away, some of them, just because they saw the massive, and I think it could be something of maybe more sophisticated armament available to them that were used on the attack. So I agree. This is not sort of like a demonstration just went chaotic. It's more organized.
In Cairo, meanwhile, there are nationwide protests planned across the country on Thursday. Remember, we're talking about a movie that went unnoticed when it first popped up on the web in a few months back and was dubbed into Arabic, which suddenly was the source of anger and rage in Cairo and Benghazi on September the 11th.
There is no such thing as unrestricted freedom. Even freedom has boundaries. Core religious beliefs should be respected by everyone in the world. We are against this film. We have heard that it insults the Prophet, peace be upon him, although I've personally not seen it.
The first demand is to stop airing the movie because it's insulting the messenger. We are, as Muslims, condemning any assault to any Muslim across the world, including those living in Myanmar and Syria. Secondly, we demand that the expatriate Coptics in America have their Egyptian citizenship withdrawn. They are just a cursed group. They should be prevented from entering Egypt. We need an apology from the Egyptian church.
All right, some pretty heady rhetoric there, Hugh Miles. And again, let me ask you about the Egyptian government. On the one hand, urging restraint, arresting 4 people who trespassed on the premises of the U.S. Embassy on Tuesday and took down the flag. And on the other hand, the Muslim Brotherhood calling for those nationwide protests tomorrow.
Well, I mean, Egypt is obviously a different situation to Libya, but what they've got in common is that there is a strong hostility to the United States amongst many people in the Islamic and Arab world because of U.S. foreign policy in Afghanistan and Iraq and support for Israel, and I could go on. So the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt is really responding to a lot of popular anger at this movie. The danger, of course, is that all this can snowball very quickly, and the United States needs to act, well, both sides need to act, everyone needs to act with great self-restraint if the situation is not going to escalate and if there's not going to be more violence. In the case of Libya, it's very hard to see how the Americans will be able to exercise self-restraint during this election period. And certainly the US public are going to struggle to understand why the country they liberated is attacking them. And I imagine that the US will push the Libyans to allow them to introduce armed help. And this could accelerate the problem and aggravate it, and the results will be more violence and even worse.
Laurie Dundon, when you know that there were some 300 Salafists protesting outside the U.S. Embassy in Tunis, and they were pushed back by riot police, what kind of a reaction do you see coming out of Washington?
Well, I think there's immediately going to be a very nervous administration looking at all the security threats and being very concerned about the potential for a spark throughout the region. We're already seeing it. They know they have to manage it. They know they have to tread very carefully and continue to emphasize a message of wanting to continue their work with an American footprint in the region that is respectful, with rhetoric that is respectful, cooperative, supporting moderates, pushing back extremists, delineating between the two, and they're going to have to keep hammering that message as they go forth. It's also, if I can just make a quick comment regarding the election, it's also most important for President Obama to do this because it's the best policy for America and the best policy to protect Americans and American interests. By doing that, he shows in his electoral campaign that he's a leader who's taking care of the nation. It's better for this not to be about political gamesmanship now for him. It's better for him to do the work of just trying to push forward on our goals and secure Americans and secure our work in the region and keep us moving forward.
Let's hear the tone of what Barack Obama had to say a short while ago at the White House. Barack Obama, who read a statement and took no questions from reporters.
The United States condemns in the strongest terms this outrageous and shocking attack. We're working with the government of Libya to secure our diplomats. I've also directed my administration to increase our security at diplomatic posts around the world. And make no mistake, we will work with the Libyan government to bring to justice the killers who attacked our people.
Make no mistake, but Paul Valley, we're in you said it before, part one of our discussion, we're in an election campaign. Is that forceful enough, the tone of the U.S. president?
This make no mistake expression is one that actually comes out usually after every such incident or terrorist attack and so on. We've heard it over and over before. Of course, what the problem, which the lawyer was also exposing, is the fact that indeed the response has to be calibrated, of course, according to diplomatic and political imperatives. But obviously, in an election period at this point of the calendar, it's very difficult to prevent this incident from taking place. So, of course, there's an imperative on the diplomatic front to have a somewhat restrained and cool-headed response to that. So there's additional increased security. I understand that a team of additional anti-terrorist experts from the Marine Corps are going to reinforce the Tripoli compound. But of course, the Republican candidate is going to raise questions as to can there not be a more forceful response. And of course, it's been a theme which he has tried to use earlier in the year, saying that the problem with Barack Obama's foreign policy is that, to use his expression, he keeps apologizing for America. Now, of course, this diplomatic response does not necessarily respond or represent an apology, but it's not also sending a fleet of cruise missiles to just flatten the city.
All right, let me turn here. Let me turn here to
Romney comment. Then you got
let me turn here to Mathieu Mabin, not the guy who covered the war in Libya, but the one who used to be the correspondent in Pakistan, and that kind of tone, is that the right tone to strike when you're dealing with groups like the Taliban, who've, by the way, already reacted against this movie?
It's very difficult to compare. The situation are so different.
Should Obama be more forceful?
I don't think so, not in Libya. I mean, Libyan people are not the problem in Libya. A very small minority is the problem. I don't know exactly, and I think nobody knows how many those Salafi groups are in Libya, but they are definitely not representative of the people. Probably 95% of Libyan people would welcome Barack Obama himself at home for dinner, for sure. And the Libyan people today know the responsibility of the US government in the freedom of their own country. Definitely nothing was possible without the conversation between Hillary Clinton and Sarkozy. Everybody knows that in Libya. I hope the US opinion will not think that the situation has changed in Libya, because I'm sure it did not change. Only a very small group took action and reached the objective, definitely.
But Waid Borshan, at the same time, Barack Obama saying that these deeds won't go unpunished. So what should Obama do?
Was absolutely correct is the fact that to work with the Libyan government and the Libyan people themselves will do the job. I can assure you, and I assure the American government, that the Libyan people will not spare the time or the effort to find those killers and bring them to justice. I can guarantee you that. I think the American people, and especially the security apparatus, know the Libyans, and they know them intimately, and the security forces, and I know that this group, or if this is what happened, that we will do our best to find them. They're not talking to people who are the enemy of the American people. Libyan people are definitely decent people, are peace-loving people. They just went through 42 years of, with a tyrant ruling them. They are coming out of this into a democracy. Obviously, democracy has its weaknesses in terms of security, especially in transition time. We're overcoming that. We understand what's happening. So to respond to your question directly, the Libyan government, the Libyan people, I can guarantee you they will be very, very forceful and strong and in a partnership with the United States to find these killers. It is because what's best for Libya. Libya has to prove to the rest of the world and the international community can take care of its problems. And whatever, if we have a consulate and guests in our land, we will protect them, we will honor them, and it's our responsibility.
Catherine Norris-Trent, people you've been speaking to today on the streets of Tripoli, what do they see as what's going to happen next?
People are very worried about what's going to happen next, Francois. When they learned about this news, they were very shocked. A lot of them expressed their sympathy for the American ambassador and the American people, but they're worried how this could have repercussions for Libya. People know here that security is a massive challenge. Over the last few months, I've been speaking to many people about how to deal with this proliferation of arms in Libya after the revolution. Thousands of weapons were released from Gaddafi's compounds and arms storage warehouses, and it's widely documented in the hands of several people in the country and further abroad. That now is a major challenge. When we've asked politicians what they plan to do about that, they say they're going to deal with it, but they all say it's going to take time and it's not going to happen straight away. There are ideas for arms collections programs, to pay money to former rebels to hand in their arms. But people we've been speaking to who fought in the revolution say they're not willing to do that yet. They're too unsure of the security situation, so don't feel prepared to give up their weapons just yet. And until the government can form a stronger state and integrate all those people with weapons further into the national security forces and keep those security forces under their own control, well, that remains a very volatile situation, and people are very wary of that.
And Paul Valley, mentioning the words of Mitt Romney, we're going to hear him now. He spoke a short while ago in Jacksonville, Florida, Obama's challenger, accusing the administration of sending mixed signals in Egypt when it failed to issue a timely condemnation of Tuesday's violence that spilled into the U.S. Embassy in Cairo.
I think it's a terrible course for America to stand in apology for our values. That instead, when our grounds are being attacked and being breached, that the first response of the United States must be outrage at the breach of the sovereignty of our nation. And apology for America's values is never the right course.
Laurie Dunstan?
I'm going to jump in here real fast because, I think there's two things to point out very quickly. Over and over again, we see in presidential campaigns the risk of the candidate who's not in office overstepping in a statement early on in a crisis because they don't have access to the same information. I think part of Romney's error there was just, trying to keep up with the information that was going on the ground in Cairo.
But hang on a second. He put out an initial statement on Tuesday evening along the same line as that.
Yep.
The leadership inside the Republican Party, usually hawkish senators, have not gone as far as him. And yet he came out and said the same thing again this Wednesday.
You want to jump out. I'm sure he wants to jump out, be tough, go out hammering points, but he didn't know about the evolving situation with Ambassador Stevens to the same degree that the administration did. So you just get yourself in a risky situation. So I wouldn't overread his first statements too far, overanalyze his first statements.
This wasn't his first statements, though.
No. But I'm talking in the first couple of days. We're still trying to figure out what happened on the ground. That said, I do think the underpinnings of what Romney's going after Obama on this for is also tricky. Romney's themes are not just that Obama apologizes to the world, but the flip side of that is, if we're not bolder, if we're not stronger, if our enemies don't know how tough we are, then there'll be more conflict in the world. So get out there, be tough, let everyone in the world know where we stand and go in with a heavy American footprint. Otherwise, our message isn't clear. That's a very risky line to take as this goes forward in the next weeks and months. Building up anti-Americanism throughout the region would only further increase the spark. And if he got into office, he'd then have to deal with that. So this is really tricky. He's going to have to come back a little bit, work with the hawks in his own party, which are one element and want a tough message, and yet nuance and constrain himself. And Romney does that quite often. Goes out with a strong statement, pulls it back a little bit, moderates. So my guess is that's what we're going to see. We'll continue to see the play a leader in the role, a leadership role in the region, but being a little bit careful to distance himself from anything that could spark violence.
Will he regret that statement, Paul Valley?
Well, we'll see how the situation evolves in the next few days, whether the story remains alive and it then becomes a bit of an issue. In 2 or 3 weeks' time, we'll have the first presidential debates. So obviously, there's one of these debates that's going to be centered on foreign policy issues. That's likely the area where the clash might possibly come. And it's true that, of course, he has been trying to build on that message for some time. That, of course, the outgoing administration's policy is being critiqued by this more nationalist perception, feels that America has been too weak and for the last 4 years or so. There are even, of course, some countries abroad who may also read that message as well. It'd be very interesting to see how the Russian take on all of this is going to be, because, of course, they were opposed to the intervention in Libya as they are in Syria now, and they will probably try to jump into this issue as well, complicate matters for the president by saying, see, we told you so, things would get out of it.
And Romney's already laid down the gauntlet saying the Russians will be our worst enemy now. So.
Indeed. So there are plenty of possible ramifications to this.
One man who does agree with Romney is Matt on the France 24 Debate Facebook page. He says, the problem with Americans is they always want everyone to like them. Perhaps it is better to be feared than to be liked. Eric says, not much Obama can do without causing conflict. It's next to impossible to track down and arrest the bumpkins of the mob. Increase security or close the embassies. This underlines the initial reservations many had about American intervention in Libya, that the general population were a bunch of religious crazed yokels who believe in multiple murders is an appropriate response to some obscure film that almost no one has heard about. While Badir says not a single place in Quran does it allow you to kill an innocent person. When you see that chatter going back and forth, Hugh Miles, that debate over religion and civil liberties is one you've been hearing constantly since the end of 2010.
Well, I mean, the problem is we live in a very connected world now, and these, as we've seen now, increasingly in the last few years, with increasing speed, the internet, satellite TV, and so on, YouTube, means that these unknown videos can get international airplay and suddenly be propelled to infamy. So, I mean, this is a major challenge for policymakers, and it's something that the United States in particular has to take on board, because clearly this could happen again at any time. Anyone in the United States can come up with this kind of thing. Our best hope now, I think, is on the Libyans acting or reacting very robustly. And we need to see also how the Libyan reaction plays out in the US media and in Washington. I mean, it'll be much easier for the United States if there are some arrests, if the Libyans are seen to be doing something and making progress. But if that doesn't happen, then Barack Obama is going to be under more pressure to do something, and that is quite likely to be counterproductive, because the something is likely to be turning the US embassy into a fortress, and that will antagonize many Libyans who are currently in favor of the United States.
All right, and Waid Borshan, a final word from you. Looking ahead, what do you think will be when you say there will be a response from the Libyan government fast, what are you expecting?
Well, I know for sure they are creating a special committee, I guess, if you will, a command post and operational center to handle this particular issue. So there's a huge focus from the president, and I'm sure the new prime ministers, whoever may be tonight, would be his immediate task tomorrow to investigate this and make sure that to bring those people to justice. Also, if I may add to the earlier point, is that I think we do have in the Arab countries and the Muslim countries, we do have we need to educate our people and explain, that they cannot be sort of like, cause, whatever the word may be, to just react just for somebody did something somewhere. It's just not, it has nothing to do with the reality of the situation or anything to do, or it's going to take anything away from the Prophet. I think this is this type of thing needs to also supported by education from our part.
All right, Waid Bouchan, I want to thank you for joining us from Tripoli. I also want to thank Catherine Norris-Trent, who's there, Hugh Miles in Cairo, and our panel here in the studio, Paul Valley, Laurie Dundon, and Mathieu Mabin. Thank you for being with us here on the France 24 debate.